So, what if I told you there's a fruit out there that healers, for thousands of years, didn't really prescribe for nutrition, but for your mind? Yeah, a fruit that wasn't just a snack, but was seen as this key to a long, peaceful life. Kind of wild, right? Okay, let's get into it. Yeah, this is how one of our sources put it. And it's, wow, what an image. We're not just talking about something that gets digested. We're talking about compounds that can literally travel through your body and have a direct conversation with your brain. It's pretty incredible. So, what's the first thing it says in that conversation? Well, it tells your body to dial back the stress hormone cortisol. You can almost feel that tension in your shoulders just starting to melt away. And then it starts to quiet down that frantic, looping voice in your head. You know the one, right? The one that keeps so many of us just staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning. And to top it all off, it helps guide you into a deep, actually restorative sleep. So what is this thing? This so-called fruit of immortality? It's the jujube. Maybe you've seen it called a Chinese date. And look, the name might not ring a bell, but here's the cool part. Modern science is finally starting to catch up and prove what ancient traditions have known for centuries. Let's take a look at the science, starting with a vitamin we all know. Okay, just look at this. The visual here is kind of shocking, right? We all think orange for a vitamin C boost, and yeah, you get about 53 milligrams. An apple gives you like less than 5. But the jujube, get this, it can have over 500 milligrams in the same amount. It's not even in the same league. This thing completely redefines what a high C fruit even is. So what does that mean? It means a single, small handful of jujubes can give you nearly 600% of your daily vitamin C. Seriously, think about that. It's less of a fruit and more like a powerful, all-natural supplement that you can literally just pick off a tree. But okay, vitamin C is one thing. That calming effect, that's where the real magic is. See, the jujube has these super rare compounds, jujubicide A and spinosyn. What makes them so special is they can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. They get right in there and interact with what are basically the brakes in your brain, the GABA receptors. Their whole job is to tell your nervous system, hey, it's okay, you can slow down now. And in a world that feels like it's permanently switched on, that's just the perfect way to put it, isn't it? This fruit is basically an edible off switch for that constant low-level buzz of anxiety we all feel. Okay, so if this fruit is so amazing, you've got to be asking the same thing I am. Where has it been all this time? Well, it turns out it wasn't always this forgotten. Far from it. This thing was once a pillar of civilization that we just sort of left behind. Just look at its journey. We're talking way back in Han Dynasty China, where it wasn't even considered a fruit. No, it was classified as one of the 5 greens. That puts it on the same level as rice and wheat. Then it traveled the Silk Road, became a big deal in Rome, spread all over the Mediterranean, but then things changed. As farming got more modern, it just fell out of fashion, pushed aside for fruits that were sweeter, juicier, easier to sell. Just stop and think about that for a second. A fruit being as essential as bread. Why? Because it was a famine breaker. When the rains didn't come and the grain crops failed, the jujube tree, with its super deep roots, would still be covered in fruit. And get this, it would dry right on the branch, turning into this perfect, shelf-stable food that could get a whole village through the winter. It was literally the ultimate insurance policy against starvation. And this quote, this just nails it, doesn't it? We moved away from the crops that kept us alive and toward the crops that simply tasted good. As we got better at farming and food wasn't so scarce, we just changed our priorities. We stopped looking for toughness and resilience, and instead we started breeding plants purely for that instant gratification, that sweet, watery burst of flavor. And that brings us to a really fascinating contrast, a perfect metaphor for our food system today, really. It's the story of the dependable workhorse versus the flashy show pony. So let's put it head-to-head with something we all love, the apple. Now, apples are great, but they're total Goldilocks plants. Everything has to be just right. They need the right amount of cold, tons of water, and a whole schedule of chemical sprays to keep pests away. But the jujube, the workhorse, it's the complete opposite. This thing laughs at 110-degree heat, shrugs off minus 20-degree freezes, barely sips water, and since it has no natural pests in North America, it needs 0 sprays. None. So here's the bottom line. This tree is practically built for the crazy, unpredictable weather we're seeing now. It blooms super late in June,
so it completely dodges those late spring frosts that can destroy an entire apple or peach crop. It's tough, it's resilient, it's low maintenance. It's a tree that asks for basically nothing and gives you everything in return.
Okay, so at this point, you're probably thinking, this sounds incredible. So how do you actually get one of these ancient super trees into your own backyard? Let's talk about how to grow your own. But first, we have to tackle the elephant in the room. If it's this superior, why isn't it in every single grocery store? Honestly, it boils down to something kind of silly: human vanity. We've been trained to think fruit has to be perfectly smooth and shiny. And a jujube, when it's at its absolute best, when the flavor is at its peak, well, it looks a little wrinkly. And this is exactly what we've been missing out on. The fruit has these three totally different amazing stages. When it's still greenish yellow, it's got this crisp, tart crunch, kind of like a Granny Smith apple. Then, as it gets these red-brown spots, it gets incredibly sweet and crunchy. But that final stage, the wrinkled one that we'd probably throw out, that's when it's at peak perfection. The sugars are totally concentrated and it gets chewy and rich, just like a perfect date. You really have to try it like that to get it.
So if you're thinking you want to plant one, it's actually super easy. Here's the rundown. First, always buy a grafted tree from a real nursery, not a big box store. Growing from seed is just a total gamble. Look for sweet varieties like honey jar or Lee or Lang. These things are hardy in a huge range of climates, from zone 5 all the way to 10. And a pro tip, plant 2 different kinds and they'll cross-pollinate and you will get a huge harvest.
Yeah, this isn't like planting some tomatoes for one summer. We're talking about a generational tree. Some of these trees have lived and produced fruit for over 1,000 years. So when you plant a jujube, you're not just planting it for yourself. You're planting a legacy, a gift of food and resilience for your kids and even their kids. You know, the story of the jujube really holds a mirror up to us. For the last century, we traded rugged resilience for easy sweetness. But with everything changing, with our climate getting more and more unpredictable, trees like the jujube are just waiting there for us to rediscover them. And it leaves you with a really big question, right? What are we going to choose to plant for the future?